Hello and welcome to Younas News. I am Jawad Tehami. As we speak, there has been a major development as far as the crisis in the Middle East is concerned. We know for a fact that since 7th of October 2023, the Israeli brutality has continued unabated against innocent people in Gaza, which has resulted in the deaths of over 64 innocent Gazans. As far as today's development is concerned, that is very shocking, which has been condemned by a number of countries in the region. In particular, Israel has targeted Hamas leadership in Qatar's capital, Doha, which has also been strongly condemned by Qatar, with Foreign Ministry spokesman Majid al-Ansari in a statement saying, let me quote, the country condemns in the strongest terms the attack which he said was carried out on a residential building housing several members of Hamas political bureau. This criminal attack constitutes a flagrant violation of all international laws and norms and a serious threat to the security and the safety of Qataris and the residents of Qatar. While strongly condemning this attack, the state of Qatar affirms that it will not tolerate this reckless Israeli behavior and is continued tampering with regional security as well as any action targeting its security and sovereignty. Investigations are underway at the highest level and further details will be announced as soon as they become available, unquote. Now, this particular development, this particular Israeli aggression comes at that particular specific time when the Hamas leaders are considering that ceasefire proposal which was put forth by US President Donald Trump. And there were certain statements by both sides as far as that proposal by President Donald Trump was put forth. Israeli Foreign Minister saying that it had accepted that peace proposal, the ceasefire proposal, and Hamas at the same time had said that it was ready to immediately sit at the negotiations table. At that particular time, Qatar had also impressed upon and urged Palestinian resistance group Hamas to come up with a positive consideration of that particular ceasefire proposal. This Israeli brutality continues unabated. And what is going to be the future now of any ceasefire proposal after this particular reckless action on the part of Israeli regime and its illegal occupation forces in the Palestinian territories? Let me bring in our esteemed panel of guests who are joining us both in the studio as well as online. Mr. Ahmed Hassan Awan, he is foreign affairs expert. Mr. Awan, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Also in the studio, we are honored to be joined by Mr. Bakir Younas. He is a Palestinian journalist. Mr. Younas, thank you very much for your time, also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. I will also be joined by Mr. Raza Bashir Tarad. He is former ambassador. He will be joining us on the phone line. And also Dr. Ahmed Zaki, expert Middle East affairs. He'll be joining us on the video link. I'll be bringing them in during the course of our conversation as and when they join in. Let me begin the discussion with you, Mr. Awan. Let's begin with this particular aggressive move by Israel, not only targeting the Hamas leadership, which is housed in Qatar's capital, but also where they are housed, that is where there are residential buildings all around as well. And also, this is a flagrant violation of not only international law, but also the norms. We have also seen the statement that has come from the United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres. Mr. Awan, what sort of an action would you consider this one to be at this particular point in time when Hamas was actually in the process of considering that ceasefire proposal put forth by President Donald Trump?
Thank you for the question. I think first of all we need to understand that Israel was from day one never serious about any kind of ceasefire or peace deal. I think that was pretty much clear from day one when their actions speak louder than words. They have been continuously violating all international norms, all international laws, humanitarian law. They have been continuously bulldozing international norms, and that emboldened behavior is in many ways because of the inaction and the silent passivity that we see from the international community. I think secondly, this is typical macho mafia style politics that Israel is carrying out. This is a clear case of expansionist politics. They have resorted to violence, use of aggression against numerous countries in the region, including Iran, Syria, and Yemen as well. And now, in the latest events, we've seen the shocking news of attacking the Hamas delegation, which was considering President Trump's proposal of peace, and Qatar being the host country. This is actually a point of contention that this is something that food for thought, that what will be the future of the Gulf security, because for various years, for numerous decades, US has been one of the passive guarantors of peace in the region. Now the very peace is being challenged by the very ally that the US supports in the region. This is the interesting point to note, and to add to it, you have to also consider the future of the Abrahamic Accords as well, moving forward.
Right, Mr. Younas, what's your understanding? When we talk about, on one side, when we talk about Israel foreign minister saying that they have accepted the proposal, the ceasefire proposal which was put forth by President Donald Trump, and on the other side, the kind of statements from their army chief that came out that specifically talked about, again, going after the Hamas leadership. On one side, you are saying that you are accepting that particular proposal by President Donald Trump, and at the same time, the peace proposal or the ceasefire proposal is for negotiations with the Palestinian resistance group Hamas, and that is the exact group of whose leadership you are targeting. And at that very particular point in time, when there is a lot of positivity in the air that there might be some sort of a breakthrough, how are you looking at this particular latest aggression by Israel?
Well, actually, you see, those Jewish occupiers who already occupied Palestine, who already actually committing a crime by occupying a country, if every negative thing is accepted or, is going to come from them. See, in the last 24 hours, they have attacked now Qatar. Before that, they attacked Lebanon, Syria as well. So 3 Arab countries have been attacked by Israeli forces, by the Israeli air forces, with no real reaction from the Arab world, from the Muslim world, from the international world, from the international community, from the United Nations. There is no reaction from anyone, and there is no reaction stopping what the Jewish occupiers are doing in the Middle East. Keep in mind that what is happening now, it's a violation of the Qatari sovereignty, which is already, have been done in Syria. They also violated Syria's sovereignty. They also violated Lebanon sovereignty. They also violated Iran's sovereignty. They have already occupied Palestine. So, I mean, what's going to come out of them? Everything, what the Israelis are doing, everything what the Jewish occupiers are going to do is always will be breaking the law, always will be crossing the limits. They will never come to the limits. They will never come to the law, because nobody yet have held them accountable for what they are doing, unless and until they will be held accountable. This Air Force, what do you call it, the pilots, the one who gave the orders, all those people have to be held accountable. 65,000 Palestinians were killed. For what? Palestine is occupied since 1948. For what? Targeting Syria, Lebanon, Iran, Qatar now. For what? See, this limitless army should be dismantled. This power should be taken out from them, and those people, those criminals, should be held in court. Otherwise, this is going to continue, because there's no law yet stopping them from what they're doing.
And what could be the possible way forward regarding that, as you recommended, that this particular illegal occupation force that has been targeting innocent Palestinians, not only innocent Palestinians in both the West Bank as well as since 7th of October back in 2023, the innocent people in Gaza, but also breaching the sovereignty of the independent states in violation of the United Nations Charter. And with this particular latest aggressive move, what is expected of the international community? Mr. Younas, I'll come back to you. We're honored to be joined by Mr. Raza Bashir Tarad. He is former ambassador. Mr. Tarad, thank you very much for your time, for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Okay, so now this particular aggressive move in violation of international law, the United Nations Charter, breaching the sovereignty of Qatar, one of the leading mediating countries, the mediators who have been putting in a lot of effort over the last many months now in order so that there could be peace brought back in the Middle East through their efforts. Now, their sovereignty has been breached. there is a strong condemnation that has come forth by the foreign ministry spokesperson of Qatar at the same time. As per the international law, the international norms, what are the options in the hands of the Qataris at this particular point in time? Where do you see them? We have seen the strong-worded comments coming from the foreign ministry. What could practically be done at this particular point in time as far as options for Qatar are concerned? Mr. Tarak, can you hear me, please?
Ji, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. Please go ahead, Mr. Tarak.
Thank you, Tamil sir. Well, sir, this is indeed a big shock. And you have referred to international norms and law and all of those things. Unfortunately, in my humble opinion, all these norms have already been, thrown to shreds by the Israeli actions in Gaza and the impunity with which they have been doing all this, which has only emboldened them. Now, as far as the options are concerned, I think it's a great test for the Qatari leadership, for the Arab leaders in general, who have, made great overtures to the Israelis. And I think it will need, obviously, a very decisive but a very calibrated response.
Mr. Tarar, I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. We'll resume the discussion from this very pertinent, very important point, but I'll have to go for a quick short break. After this particular break, we'll resume the discussion. For that, stay tuned. Welcome back to Views on News. As we speak, there is a major development in the Middle East. The Israeli aggression against the state of Qatar, putting the regional peace, stability and security in jeopardy. We have seen a strong worded statement that has come forth by Pakistan's Prime Minister Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif as well, condemning this Israeli aggression and also expressing solidarity with the state and the people of Qatar. We are already discussing this important development and the kind of reaction Qatar has given to this particular provocation on the part of Israeli regime and its occupation forces in the region. In the studio, we are joined by Mr. Ahmed, Hassan, Awan, Mr. Bakir, Younas online. We were in discussion before heading for the break with Mr. Raza Bashir Tarar. Mr. Tarar, please go ahead. What sort of an option do you think would be most viable at this particular point in time as far as the state of Qatar is concerned? A strong worded statement, condemnation to the fullest in terms has come forth. When we talk about Qatar's right under United Nations Charter to safeguard its sovereignty and territorial integrity, what are the options under that United Nations Charter, and what does that particular international law, any sort of specific provisions in such a scenario for an independent state to go about?
Well, sir, first of all, let me quickly appreciate the statement coming from our Premier, which has been issued with a lot of alacrity and is very clear and very well worded and well-rounded statement. Regarding the options that Qatar has, obviously we have to understand Qatar has a lot of gravitas and it has made a name for itself in regard to mediation and peaceful resolution of disputes. So my guess would be obviously that Qatar definitely has a lot of goodwill, which is across the board. I can assure you that they are very well respected and in practically every capital of the world. So definitely Israelis have done something extremely unwise. They have squandered away whatever little, kind of credibility, maybe I'm using the wrong word, they had. And most of all, they have basically, by doing what they have done, they have indirectly strengthened the narrative of those who prefer violence over negotiation and pacific settlement of disputes. It's a very unwise act, and as far as the options are concerned, obviously there's a plethora of options. Under you are entitled to self-defense, also retaliation if you have been wronged. But I'm sure saner voices will be heard, and we won't hopefully see some inadvertent escalation which gets out of hand. But
as far as Mr. Tarad, I seek your pardon for the interjection over here. There are a lot of aspects related to this particular development that need clarification, that need a broader understanding. When we talk about the United Nations Security Council, I'm curious to understand, when such sort of a scenario emerges, is there any sort of a mandate when the United Nations Security Council could actually convene an emergency meeting if such type of threat emanates and the regional peace, security and stability is threatened clearly by such an aggressive move by any party in a certain specific region? Or do you think any specific country, whether it be one of the permanent fives or the 10 other members of the United Nations Security Council, they will have to take the step in order to make the United Nations Security Council convene any sort of an emergency meeting? And what could be the possible outcomes if such an emergency meeting happens?
Definitely, that is an option, and I'm sure as we speak, that is being worked upon. I wouldn't be surprised if Pakistan takes the lead and calls for a meeting. It's a very grave situation, and certainly it is to discuss something which can really imperil regional peace and by extension world peace. Now, as far as the outcome is concerned, to speak in the realpolitik lingo, obviously all the P5 have to be on the same page for any decisive action by the UNSC. This is unlikely.
Is there any iota of doubt left that this was a flagrant violation of United Nations Charter? It was a direct threat to the regional peace and stability. It was a direct breach of an independent sovereign state sovereignty and territorial integrity. So what else is required for the United Nations Security Council to believe that it all went against the international norms, the United Nations Charter, the defined international law regarding the sovereignty, as well as territorial integrity of an independent state is concerned?
Let's not be in any doubt that the Security Council, the UN, anybody in the world cannot justify what the Israelis have done. Even the most cynical ones who try to, kind of blame Hamas and try to create this false equivalence between this, a very powerful, well-endowed state and, people who are basically suffering, would not be able to do that. And definitely there will be discussion, and that will, whatever is discussed in the Security Council becomes a part of permanent record. So even the US, if it wants to basically, give some sort of a crutch to the Israelis, will have to be very careful on how they word what they say. They'll be in a very awkward position how to sort of justify this action and targeting of negotiators who may have been on the verge of a breakthrough. So rest assured, the Security Council will rise to the occasion. They will discuss it. Even if they do not come up with some magic solution that sort of pacifies the situation, but it will definitely further erode whatever little capital the Israelis have.
I get your point. There is one very interesting, another aspect that I want your understanding regarding about. It's the current standing of the United States of America. Let me quote the Qatar's media, Al Jazeera. Its reporters are saying that American military sources within the region told that they were not aware of this attack and that they were only notified after, and that they said they cannot speak to whether or not the White House was informed. So what does that mean? What sort of a sense should we be making out of these statements which are coming from the military sources in the region of the United States of America, which is being reported by Al Jazeera?
In itself is proof that what the Israelis have done is quite frankly, I honestly cannot come up with an appropriate superlative, but even the Americans are at a loss as to how to react. And obviously, the only thing they can do immediately is to distance themselves. I mean, at least theoretically. I mean, not that they are going to sort of penalize the Israelis' militarily or something like that. But quite frankly, nobody can actually justify what they have done. And this basically does not bode well for, let's say, a peaceful solution.
Right, I get your point, Mr. Raza Bashir Tarar, former ambassador. Thank you very much for being with us on Views on News tonight. We really appreciate that. Mr. Awan, what about this particular statement that has come from the military sources of the United States of America in the region, which is being referred to by Al Jazeera, that they were not aware of this attack and that they were only notified after, and they cannot speak to whether or not the White House was informed either?
I think this is interesting to note that if the US wasn't informed, there are other questions that are also raised regarding the accuracy, the information, the intelligence of the location of the Hamas leadership, which was being hosted by Doha, Qatar. So it sort of, yes, it does sort of, brings into question the role that the US is supposed to play. Whether the US can reign in Israel is a separate question. But in this scenario, where the US military so far has claimed that they were not informed, for that to cement as a stance, there has to be a strong response from the White House itself, because they need to distance themselves.
When you specifically talk of strong response from the White House, I mean, what could be the depiction of that? Any sort of a manifestation at this particular point in time?
President Trump should directly distance himself, coming out on media and calling out a spade a spade.
And that is what exactly what we have seen, a very strong worded censure by President Donald Trump when there was a ceasefire that was also agreed between Israel and Iran because of after Israel's aggression against Iran. Even then, after that agreement, Israel went on to make some strikes which actually annoyed President Donald Trump at that particular point in time. There was a clear-cut censure in very strong words by President Trump at that particular point in time. So could we just expect similar sort of censure, or could there be any sort of a practical manifestation on that particular front this time around?
I think practical manifestation, I doubt that. But again, it could be a repeat of a similar kind of diplomatic condemnation coming from the US, distancing itself and recalling for resumption of ceasefire. But I feel that Israel is not in the mood for any ceasefire. This is something that I feel has been their objective from day one. Their objective has been to decimate and move on to a path of expansionist politics. This is a clear case of state terrorism at its peak. So I think there has to be a strong response from the Arab countries themselves, because we've seen that increasingly, and not just today, this has been a pattern of the US foreign policy when it comes to Israel in the Middle East. Their role as an honest broker has always been questionable. And the same question will be raised once again. Like I said in the beginning as well, that the fact that the intelligence of the strikes itself will be questioned as to how Israel was informed of the location of the negotiators.
Mr. Awan, I'll come back to you. I'll have to include Mr. Younas into the discussion also. Mr. Younas, there was a little bit of hope after months of negotiations as far as a ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian resistance group Hamas. Now, Israeli foreign minister had given out a statement that Israel agreed to the new ceasefire proposal put forth by President Donald Trump. Likewise, we saw Qatar at the same time urged Palestinian resistance group Hamas to consider that particular ceasefire proposal with positive mindset. Also, Hamas was willing to immediately sit on the negotiating table, and since they were considering this particular proposal, this particular Israeli aggression happens, how detrimental do you think it's going to be for the overall peace efforts which were being put in by all the mediators?
You see, the peace efforts, actually, it was a failure from day one, because we are not dealing with a state, we are dealing with criminals. So you have to understand that the problem with Israel, it's not a proper state, it's not a country, it is a place of occupiers, a place of criminals who have come to Palestine and who have established a fake state named Israel. And those people actually are not willing to be questionable for any law. So you can't ask them you can't make a deal with them, you can't make any agreement with them, you can't deal with them as a proper state. So like if there's a Pakistan and India war, both countries will go for a deal and will stop the war, will stop the fires, will accept the ceasefire. But this is not this is not the situation with Israel. Israel is a different country. It's a different actually creature. It's a place where occupiers came, where criminals are there. You see what they're doing since the 7th of October. What they're doing? It's almost 2 years. They are killing civilians. We are seeing kids, children, women every day and night. 24/7 they are bombarding them. Which kind of crime this is? So this kind of country, what do you think they will come for peace? Peace with whom? They consider us the people shouldn't live, shouldn't have land. The Americans themselves have said many times that we will purchase Gaza, we will sell Gaza. They're not considering us as the people who owns this place or the people actually who is the real belongers to this land. So we are actually dealing with this mentality, who never accept laws, never accept international law. We have seen Ilan Gland, the Israeli representative in the United Nations. He have actually.
How do you look at this particular statement of the military sources quoted by Al Jazeera regarding they were not aware of this particular attack before, but were informed afterwards, and the White House was not informed either?
So what difference this will make? Will this push the Americans to punish the Israelis?
Any sort of a strong response from
what they will do?
Trump administration at this particular point in time? Because he was very positive that they're working really hard to get a ceasefire deal done. And there were steps which were taken in that particular direction. We had seen to quite considerable extent, there was largely a great willingness as far as Palestinian resistance group Hamas was also concerned. When President Trump talk seriously about making efforts for reaching any sort of ceasefire deal, and Israel goes against that, isn't it a clear understanding as far as the US perspective is concerned that Israel does not even care what President of the United States of America is thinking or what he is trying to put his effort into?
You see, this will not also hold the Israelis accountable against the in front of the United States. So if this is the picture, let's see the Americans stopping the Israelis from what they're doing. Let's see the Americans stopping supplying the Israelis weapons and missiles. Let's see the Americans taking serious steps against the Israelis. This will not happen. I think the Israelis and the Americans are playing the what they call it, the bad cop and the good cop. So this is a strategy they are playing with us. They're showing the Americans as the good cop and the Israelis as the bad cop. They want to demolish the Palestinians. They want to remove the resistance. They want to create their own new Middle East, which actually people of Palestine, people in the Arab countries, people will not accept their strategy or what they are actually thinking of the future of the Middle East. So this is the strength only. Now they have the strength, they have this power, they have the missiles, they have the air jets. And unfortunately, in the Arab world, we don't have yet.
I get your point. Ms. Awan, quickly, options, especially when it comes to the state of Qatar. Should we be expecting an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council, or Qatar would have to go about it dealing with this particular aggression of Israel at its own?
I think as far as the UN Security Council is concerned, I do not have much hopes on that, because for the last 2.5 years, and in fact more than that, we have seen that the UN Security Council inaction on the issue of Palestine is in front of us. So as far as Qatar's security is concerned, I really feel that this episode, and this was on the cards, given the fact that, like my colleagues on the show have already said, that the reason for this action by Israel is its lack of accountability. And since it has not been held accountable, it has gotten more and more emboldened and taken steps that violate all international norms and laws. So I think it is a test case, not just for Qatar. there will be domestic pressures across the Middle East, because the people will also question the governments as to what stance they've taken. On one side, they've been welcoming President Trump, and on the other side, they've also recognized the state of Israel, the Zionist regime, and it will also question what will this stop. Will this be any different in the coming days and months?
Ahmed, Hassan, Awan, for his expert, thank you very much for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. Mr. Bakir, Younas, Palestinian journalist, thank you very much for your time also for being with us on the show tonight. Really appreciate that. With that, we come to the end of today's episode. Till the next one, take good care of yourselves.